everybody. Welcome to the March 26th meeting of the Columbia Rotary Club. We are going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to go with our national anthem, Rusty to Pass, and Audrey Brown.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, thank you, Audrey. And Carl, if you'll come up here and lead us in our invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our gracious Father, we give you thanks for this food and for all your blessings, more numerous than we can count. We thank you especially for the spiritual blessings of your love, mercy, and forgiveness. We thank you for the events we celebrate this week of your Son's triumphal entry into Jerusalem, his final days and words with his disciples, his death on the cross for us, and his resurrection. We thank you that we can gather together today in Rotary fellowship and service. We thank you for our speaker, we hope, Mayor Benjamin, and for his service to this community. We ask your blessing on him and his family, and we ask you to use our hands and the resources you have given us in your service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, I'm feeling a little bit lonesome up here, so I sure am glad you're sitting with me, Carl, because it is lonesome up here at the top without a speaker. If Mayor Benjamin doesn't show up, all of you will have to sit through some interpreted dance. I'm just letting you know that. All right, and actually Stephen Creech is going to be doing that interpreted dance, so even better. If you'll hold up the card buckets on your tables, make sure there's lots of money in the card buckets. And let's talk for just a second about our golf tournament. It's April 23rd. I've got the information up here on the screen. And we've got some sponsorships that are coming in. Thanks to those of you who've gone ahead and done that. Participation, people. We need participation. So let's not wait till the last minute. We'd love to have everybody out there, and we're hoping that it's not 45 degrees on the day of our golf tournament. So more information to come on that via email. Carl, do you have anything you wanted to add to that? Carl Byers?
I'm delighted that we're keeping our tradition alive and waiting the last 2 weeks. So
Yeah. We're just procrastinating a lot today, yeah. All right, excellent. Okay, we have Veriva Harris, are you ready? Veriva's going to come on up here. We've got some guests here today, and we're going to talk about guests and visiting Rotarians.
2 months of welcoming at the door has been fabulous. Although I haven't had a chance to sit at the table with each one of you, it's been great hugging you and shaking your hands and fixing your collars and gloating over your Paul Harris fellow buttons. So it's just been a fabulous experience. Although we have no visiting Rotarians today, we have several guests So those of you who brought guests, if you will please stand so you can introduce your guests.
I'm Wade Carlisle, and I brought as my guest my dad, Todd Carlisle.
I'm Jim Morris with the South Carolina Council on Economic Education, and I brought with me my guest, Nikki Hutchison, who is the Associate Director of the AARP.
I have a guest also. Omar Shalaby. He is a certified financial planner and an independent financial consultant. So welcome, Omar.
Looks like that's everyone. Welcome. You're all very special. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for your interest in growing our club and continuing to invite others to the best Rotary Club in Columbia. Not only are we the biggest, but we're the best. So welcome to Rotary.
Thank you, Reva. And now we will get to our Paul Harris presentation. I'm going to ask Past President Robin to come up here and do that for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I can't let it pass without saying this. How many in this room are Presbyterians? Well, we saved all the front tables for you. This happens in our church every single Sunday, and they blame it on the Presbyterians. I guess Rotarians and Presbyterians have a lot in common. It's always a pleasure to present the next Paul Harris Fellow, but this person, Gary Snyder, if you'll come forward, please. Gary is actually a Paul Harris +1, and I made the attempt for this recognition a month or so ago, and it was my fault. I saw Gary, the pen had just come in, and I said, he's here, we'll do it. Well, he had to leave early that day. So Gary, we want to thank you very much for the next step in the Paul Harris. And to say this, y'all, I know this is like a broken record, but Paul Harris is very important on many, many fronts. And my personal attachment to it, because of all of the things that they do all over the world, it is an area where I can make a contribution with my money, where I cannot go and physically participate. I guess I'm at the age, but age is not the only thing. There are those of us who just can't travel to foreign countries. There are many Rotarians who do. They travel to these countries, they provide water, food, and all kinds of services that we take for granted every single day. Also, for those of you who may be my age and older, you remember the polio that we all struggled with, and how as children we had to rest in the summertime because that was one way they said you could avoid polio. And then the polio vaccine came in. We're also working, so Paul Harris has been a front runner in the eradication of polio nationwide. So every time I make a contribution to the Paul Harris Foundation, I know that while I cannot be there physically, that my money that I'm giving, and it's not that much, is going to help someone in a country that I cannot be there personally to help. For that, I'm extremely grateful to the Paul Harris Foundation. A number of you have reached a point where you don't have that much more to contribute to take the next level. And I can get that information from you. Debbie's on vacation right now, but I can get that information from you. And so any of those who are interested in that, if you would contact me at the same time, I'm probably going to be contacting some of you. So, Gary, I wanted to give you your due and have you up here. Congratulations and thank you so very much. And with all Paul Harris Fellows, please stand. All Paul Harris Fellows, please stand, be recognized. And thank you for your contribution.
All right, thank you to everybody who contributes. It's very important, and it's nice to see so many of us stand up in the room. Welcome, Mayor Benjamin. We're glad to have you here. I'm certainly glad, and they are too, because they were going to have interpretive dance, and you know, if you didn't, yeah, you can do that too. Okay, good. See what a treat you're in for today. All right, I want to call Blake. Blake, are you around? Where are you, Blake? Blake is going to talk about the Rotary Night at the Fireflies. For those of you who want to participate in that, it's a really fun time. So I'm going to get him to come on up and tell you about it.
Thank you. So, Mariva said something earlier that she mentioned that we're the biggest and we're the best Rotary Club in Columbia, but yet we don't participate in Rotary Night very well at the Fireflies. So yes, I'm plugging the Fireflies tickets, but we have been outsold the last 2 years by, I believe, Camden, of all places. They sell like 65 tickets. That's not a lot. So us being the biggest and the best, we should have the best participation at this night. So it's going to be Friday, May the 4th, and the game is at 7 o'clock. That'll be a fireworks night. And I think the letter, this flyer went out today. But if you have any questions about it, tickets are $9, food vouchers are $5, so $14 gets you a ticket and food. But see me about it if you won't have any questions. And so, you know, we just want to be well represented there. I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, if we sell the most tickets, then somebody in our club gets to throw out the first pitch. And if not, I'll make that happen anyway, so we'll just do that. But so I'll make sure somebody here gets to do it, okay? But I just add, you know, if you come out, it's a great time. It's not just us. You'll have other Rotarians from around Columbia. They do this same thing in Charleston as well. But I'd love to see us well represented that night, okay? Thank you all very much.
Time for health and happiness. I'm going to ask Major Henry Morris. He's new to our club, if you guys haven't met him yet, from the Salvation Army. Come on up and do health and happiness.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hello. Again, my name is Major Henry Morris. I'm so glad to be a part of this club. I'm going to ask you to do something that may take you out of your element just a little bit. I'm going to ask you to look at your neighbor, look at the person next to you, and tell them, you look good today. Well, you have to mean it, man. You have to mean it. And now I want you to say, I know I look good. And now say, all of us, come on, I want to hear a few, all of us look good in here. Now look at your neighbor again and say, if you don't hear from anyone else, come on now, if you don't hear from anyone else, you heard it from me. You look good. I've been told you health and happiness, so that always gets people smiling. You know, I'm so glad to be here. We are blessed. We're blessed because we're able to see another day. Another day, and I always say that wasn't promised to us, but because of God's grace and His mercy, He spared each and every one of us to come here and to give each other a compliment. Because each one of us look good. You look good today, and we just thank God for that. Thank God for you being here today. I want to give you just a little bit of help. Many of you have been hearing about JT. JT called, and I talked with him, and he's doing well. He's doing. I talked to him Saturday, actually. He's doing well. And he sends his love and appreciation to the board. I mean, to everyone here for your prayers and your calls and all your support. And he said what has kept him going is the prayers and knowing that hope is in our lives. When we focus on hope, we can make it. And so he just wanted me to tell everyone thank you and for your prayers and your support. And he's doing better. He's going through the process and everything's going well. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. Okay? I didn't get any announcement today other than if you see on your table, you will notice that I put on the table, and this is just in May, but I just want to bring a sense of awareness to you that in May the 21st through the 22nd, Salvation Army has what we call National Salvation Army Week, and it's all over the world we do this. And it's National Salvation Army Week, and I just want to plug it into you, just get you aware of what's going on. We have different activities, events that's going to be taking place that I'll be bringing more information about that, but I just want to get a sense of awareness to you as to the date that that's going to be taking place, and then I'll let you know how you can partake and volunteer, and just a wonderful time of getting aware of what the Salvation Army does. So that's the National Salvation Army Week, and you can take that with you, and you'll be hearing more information coming as that draws near. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. All right, well, I have some things I want to read to you today. Since I've been told to bring some happiness, so I hope this brings some happiness to you. I hope it gets you smiling and gets you thinking as well. You know, I was looking at, it was a popular speaker who started off a seminar by holding up, I got two $10 bills, but he held up a $20 bill in his seminar. And he held it up and he had a crowd of 200 people. Many of you may have heard this before, some of you may not. He held it to a crowd of 200 people. And they gathered there, and he asked them, he said, would you like this $20 bill? And of course, 200 hands went up. Everybody wanted that. And he said, well, I'm going to give this $20 bill to the one of you, but first, let me do this. And then he crumbles it up. And then after he crumbles it up, he said, who still wants the $20 bill? Well, again, 200 hands still go up, because that didn't bother them. So he said, well, he replied, if I do this, and then he dropped the bill on the ground and began to step on it and mash on it and all kind of things. Don't know what's under his shoes, so he just began to go to town with it. And then he picks it back up. And he said, okay, I'm going to ask again. Now, who still wants this $20 bill? Now, all the hands still went up. And now, my friend, he said, I have just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did to the money, you still wanted it. Why? Because it did not decrease in its value. It was still worth $20. You know, many times in our lives, life crumbles us up. Life grinds us into the dirt at times. We make bad decisions or bad deals or poor circumstances come our way. We feel worthless at times. But no matter what has happened or what will happen, you will never lose your value. Why? Because you are special. Because God has created you to be that way. So you are special. So that's just something I want you never to forget, that we are special in God's eyes. Amen? Amen. I'm not in church, but I just want to say amen. I want to give you another one. I think I got a few more. Let me see. Okay, another one I want to share with you. And it's called potatoes, eggs, and coffee beans. Now, it was once upon a time, a daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and that she didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just that it was one problem coming after another, and when one problem is solved, another problem occurred. So her father, who was a chef, by the way, he took her into his kitchen and he filled up 3 pots, 1, 2, and 3. And he placed them on the fire burners. And once the 3 pots began to boil, her father placed some potatoes in one pot. He placed an egg, very likely, in the other pot. And then the ground coffee beans he put in the 3rd pot. And then he let it sit and it boiled for a little bit of time. And without saying a word to his daughter, the daughter moaned. And she threw a fit. She was like, what is going on? Where are you trying to get with this? And see, so after 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. And he took the potato out of the pot and he placed it in a bowl. And then he took the egg out and he placed that in a bowl. Then he got a ladle, and he put it into the coffee pot, in the pot that has the coffee in it, and he ladled out the coffee and placed that in a cup. And he turned to ask her, daughter, what do you see? And she said, well, I see a potato, I see an egg, and I see some coffee. And he said, look closer, he said, and touched the potato. And so she did what he said. And she touched the potato, and she noticed that the potato was very soft. And he then asked her to take the egg and to break it. So she began to break the shell in the egg. and after pulling off the shell, she observed a hard-boiled egg. So finally he asked her to sip up the coffee. And she began to smell the rich aroma of the coffee. That was one of her favorite things. She loved the coffee, and she began to drink the coffee, and she just loved it. And as she was drinking it, she began to smile in her face. And so the father said, "What does this mean?" And when she said to him, "Father, what does this mean?" And then he explained that the potato, the egg, and the coffee all each faced the same adversity, which was the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. You see, the potato went in strong, hard, very vigorous, relentless. But then, in the boiling water, as it began to go on, it became soft and weak. The egg was fragile, and with the thin outer shell protected its liquid interior until it was put in the boiling water. Then the inside of the egg became hard, very hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique, and after they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. "Which one are you?" he asked her. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato? Are you an egg? Or are you a coffee bean?" That's something to think about as we think about our lives. In our lives, things happen around us, don't they? Things happen that may drive us to a certain extent in our lives. But the only thing that truly matters is what happens to us within. That's very important. What happens to you and I within? No matter what's going on around us, what's in our heart that really matters. Just want to share that with you. Now I have a funny one now. I hope it's funny anyway. I think it's funny. So I'm going to share. I hope you get this one. This is my last one. I think I got a little bit of time, right? 2 minutes. I'm going to do this real quick. 2 minutes. Now, one night, four college kids stayed out late, partying and having a good time. And they paid no mind to the test they were scheduled for the next day. And they didn't study a bit for their test. So they went out and they partied. And in the morning, they hatched a plan to go to their dean and ask him if they could take their test another day. But before they did that, they got all greasy, they got all dirty, and they went to him with all this stuff, and they tried to make some sweat on them, make it seem like they had really got into some things. So they went to the dean's office, and once there, they said that they had been at a wedding the previous night, and on their way back, they got a flat tire and had to push the car to the campus. So the dean listened to their scheme, he listened to their tales and woes and thoughts, and he offered them a retest 3 days later. And they thanked him. They were so glad, they were appreciative that they get to retake their test 3 days later. So when the test day arrived, they went to the dean, and the dean pulled them out, put them both, all three of them, it was 3 of them, put them all in separate rooms. They didn't expect that, but they were okay with that because they had really studied hard and they had prepared for the test. So they saw the test, and when they got the test, and mind you, they all in 3 separate rooms, they got the test, and the test only had 2 questions on it. 2 questions. And the first one was worth 1 point, and that was they had to put their name on it. Well, they got that, not a problem. They put their name on it, 1 point given. The next question was worth 99 points. And that was, which tire burst? Option A, the left tire. Option B, the right tire. Option C, the back left tire. Option D, the back right tire. Lesson here is that always be responsible and make wise decisions.
Follow that. Nice job. That was very uplifting. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to call Meredith up here, and she's going to introduce the mayor.
I have very good notes. If I start coughing, Carrie, you're going to take over. So I got my water closed. Good afternoon. It is my honor and privilege to introduce to you today City of Columbia Mayor, the Honorable Stephen K. Benjamin. You can imagine Mayor Benjamin's list of accolades and accomplishments is very lengthy. I will try to keep my remarks brief in order to save as much time for the mayor. Since being elected mayor in a record turnout election in April 2010, Mayor Benjamin has made it his mission to create Columbia as the most talented and educated city in America. His service in Columbia started back in 1990 when he served as student body president at the University of South Carolina, later becoming the Student Bar Association president at the USC School of Law. Mayor Benjamin has continued his service in the community, serving on numerous boards for nonprofit organizations such as Columbia Urban League, Benedict College, the Greater Columbia Chamber of Commerce, and a founding board member of the Eau Claire Promise Zone. He also served as a founding member of Choose Children First and chief legal counsel for Midlands Crime Stoppers. Re-elected by a 30% margin in November 2013, Mayor Benjamin's administration has been characterized by his firm belief in Columbia's potential and an intense focus on job creation. In his first term alone, his leadership helped cut unemployment in the metro by roughly half and secured billions of dollars in new regional capital investment in the midst of a national recession. The mayor was asked to speak at the 2016 Democratic National Convention, where he talked about the importance of instilling in his daughters that they can do anything that they set their minds to, even becoming President of the United States. In addition to serving as mayor of Columbia, Mayor Benjamin teaches a class at the University of South Carolina Honors College called Columbia, South Carolina, Building a Great City. And he is also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi and Sigma Pi Phi fraternities. Mayor Benjamin is married to the Honorable DeAndrea Gist Benjamin, Chief Administrative Judge for South Carolina's 5th Judicial Circuit. They are proud parents of daughters Bethany, 12, and Jordan Grace, 10. On a personal note, I can say wholeheartedly that Mayor Benjamin supports me in the Vista and everything that we do. I know that Matt Kennel and Amy Beth Franks would agree that we are very, very blessed and fortunate that we have his support and enthusiasm in all that we are trying to do in our districts. We know that if Main Street, 5 Points, and the Vista are thriving, it makes the city of Columbia a better place to eat, shop, live, play, see, and visit. I'm proud to be a resident of the city of Columbia and even more proud to work in the heart of downtown Columbia alongside Mayor Benjamin. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me give a warm Columbia Rotary welcome to our mayor, Steve Benjamin.
This is when I walk out and say, thank you very much. I'm not sure if it's better than that. Meredith, thank you for that kind introduction. Thank you for reading it just like I wrote it. I appreciate that. So it was appreciated. Major, thank you for a bunch of new stories. I'll call that last story the 5 Points story. I guess that's and I wondered exactly what moral was behind my breakfast this morning, but now I know that the potatoes, the eggs, and the coffee bean all meant something. It's a pleasure to be here with you all, and I'm not sure how much time we have, but I'm going to try to make my points concise and tight. And hopefully we'll have a chance for some questions, maybe a little dialogue. I was with my daughter over the weekend downtown. Someone made a point to tell her how bright they thought she was, and she said, I get my looks from my mother and my brains from my father. And I was happy about that. And she said, my mama still has all her brains. All right, so I figured I'd go ahead and keep it brief and share what I was thinking. Our vision for this great city, for your city, has indeed to make Columbia the most talented, educated, and entrepreneurial city in America. That's been our focus for the last 8 years. It's been my pleasure and an honor to help lead this city both through triumph and through tragedy. I do believe that we've had some really great years behind us, but the real challenges still lay well ahead of us. We are still the home of our state capital. We have been since March 17, 1786. That will not change. We've been home to the University of South Carolina since 1801, and thank God we've been home to Fort Jackson. Victory has started here for just over 100 years. I'm proud to be here because I think those three institutions represent the strong educational infrastructure that we have here, our public schools and Midlands Tech and all the other institutions that help make this place special. Represents obviously our commitment to service, both state and national service. And I get out around the country, indeed around the world, telling people about the great things that are happening here in Columbia, South Carolina, insurance technology and nanotechnology, future fuels research. And I tell them all the things that we're doing, preparing for the future, and I also get a chance to tell them about the things I think that still make this city special. That you still find men who open doors for ladies. You still find people who pull over for funerals. We're not reticent about thanking God for His many blessings in our lives. I tell them you can still find sweet tea in restaurants in Columbia, South Carolina. And you find folks who still know the power of two of the most powerful words in the English language, and those words are thank you, or thank you. And I relish the opportunity to come to Rotary, just to say thank you for Rotary's unique role in sustaining this tradition of service and leadership, true servant leadership in Columbia, South Carolina, understanding and embracing the responsibility of civic action. We have a lot of great things that have been happening here in Columbia, South Carolina, and we are not unique in our place amongst the cities. If you look around the country, indeed around the world, the role of cities is becoming that much more important. And cities and metropolitan economies all around the world, we're seeing this incredible growth. 85% of citizens now live in cities and metropolitan economies. 89% of all jobs are in cities and metropolitan economies. 91% of America's gross domestic product is created in cities and metropolitan economies right now. In fact, cities are now responsible, the 10 highest metro areas in our country generate more than $6.2 trillion in economic value last year alone. The GDP of New York City is larger than that of the country of Russia. Just as a matter of perspective, we watched our gross domestic product here grow over the last 6 years from $31 billion to $39 billion here in the Columbia metropolitan area. Cities and metro areas and state governments are delivering almost all the infrastructure in our country right now. 75% of all infrastructure delivered by cities and metropolitan economies. We're in the midst of a significant water sewer build out here in Columbia. We deliver over $500 million in water and sewer infrastructure with $300 million more yet to spend to make sure we have first-class infrastructure serving the people of the city and this region. We are issuing our very first stormwater bond in the wake of 2015, a unanimous vote of council. We don't do a whole lot of things unanimously at City Council. $93 million infrastructure build out to address the top 20 funding areas all across the city. On water, sewer infrastructure, state and local governments, as we talk about this nationally, are in water and sewer are delivering 98.5% of all infrastructure in this country. It's not the federal government, it's the local government that's making this happen. I say that because increasingly we're watching cities take a lead role in addressing the major issues that are facing our country. We relish this opportunity. We believe this is where mayors come in. Not just creative ways to approach food deserts and meeting the needs of our most challenged and needy citizens, but creating a strong environment where capital feels welcome, where you're treated well, and it grows. Establishing a cornerstone in what it means to be a fiscally responsible city. Many of you remember years ago, that was not necessarily the reputation of the city of Columbia. I will tell you that over the last 7 years, we finished 5 of the last 7 years with a budget surplus in Columbia, South Carolina. Over the past 10 years, we've watched our tax millage go from 106.1 mils down to 98.1 mils in the city of Columbia, a significant tax cut. We funded our police department. People said we couldn't put more money into the police department. We have increased our police department funding by 60% over the last 8 years under the great leadership of Skip Holbrook. We decided to continue to invest in making sure we have the safest city that we can have. We've been upgraded by Standard & Poor's and Moody's twice over the last several years. We received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting 4 years in a row. And we fully restored the city's reserve fund, hit hard during the recession. We've grown the reserves by over 100%. We've also reduced our GASB, our non-pension related long-term liabilities, our OPEBs, by $100 million. We've done all that and continue to make the investments necessary to make us a city prepared for opportunities in the 21st century. The world is changing so rapidly. We believe that in order to be the most talented, educated, entrepreneurial city in America, we've got to make investments in our future. We've got to prepare for what technology brings us. We've got to prepare to be a 5G city, fifth generation of wireless technology that's going to fundamentally change cities all across the world, that will allow us to have not just ubiquitous Wi-Fi, but also, yes, those autonomous vehicles that will allow us to prepare for the trillions of dollars that will be spent in that space over the next decade. The world is changing rapidly, and we remain convinced that we've got to be prepared to adjust to it. We've been looking at some pretty interesting research at the City of Columbia recently, and we've been watching, across the country recently, some Pew Research that shows how the world is changing. If you were a child born in the 1940s and 50s in America, had a 90% chance that that child would do better than their parents did. By the time the 80s came around, that dropped from a 90% chance to a 50% possibility. And actually that 10% that was outlying in the 40s and 50s, it was difficult for those children to do better than their parents because their parents were doing quite well. So we're stepping into a very different world where things are changing so rapidly. 60% of children who are in kindergarten right now, the jobs that they will be working in don't exist right now. The future of work, what this means in terms of an economy like our state enjoys right now, a unique place in terms of advanced manufacturing. We have adjusted better than probably any state in the world to create an economy that I believe is the envy of many of my peers all around the country. But how do we adjust when advanced manufacturing then takes on the challenges and the opportunities of automation, of machine learning, of artificial intelligence? What does that mean when that plant that once employed 1,000 people only needs 100 people to operate the plant? How are we preparing our young people to make sure that we take advantage of that new economy? We believe that we have to be in the forefront, preparing our children, preparing our families to participate in the new economy. We embrace technology. We lead the country. It's probably fair to say, Ted Creech, in making sure that we prepare for 21st century infrastructure that allows for small cell technology to be deployed across the City of Columbia, allowing us to lead the way and not be, to be in the vanguard, not be in the back as we prepare for these opportunities before us. We believe that we have to continue making this strong cultural and business investments, again, creating an opportunity. We've watched unemployment drop by 60%. We've watched billions of dollars of private sector capital come into the City of Columbia. I will tell you that the City of Columbia didn't do that. It's our job to create an environment for private sector capital to feel welcome. It's your job to help make the investment. It's our job to create the environment. We're doing that in the Vista, in Main Street, in Five Points, in Bull Street, and we're getting the results that we want. I forget which one of my Fourth Estate friends quoted me some time ago, but yes, the Main Street and the Vista combined, you have more bars and restaurants than you have in all of downtown Greenville. Let's go count them, okay? We have a vibrant environment that has attracted hundreds of millions of dollars of capital just over the last few years. It's creating this incredible downtown scene that we will have an opportunity in September of this year to invite 70 mayors from around the country here to our city in my new role at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, to have them show off, have us show off exactly what it means to be in Columbia, South Carolina. We'll have the mayors of New York and Miami and Houston and Dallas, and Los Angeles and Louisville and Atlanta and Washington, D.C., and so many others here in our city. And I hope and pray that when that comes, we'll invite the Rotary Club out to fully participate, and again, showing them how we are not only punching above our proverbial weight, but how we're kicking their butt in so many different areas. And I'm excited about that opportunity. It has been my life's pleasure to serve as mayor of the city. I love the fact that the things that we've been doing together. In order for us to not just survive, but to thrive, we've got to have a good, strong public and private partnership, and one that is truly regional in its focus. The city of Columbia is at the heart of an urban core surrounded by some fantastic neighborhoods, and you have the benefit of being able in 15 minutes to be in the world, if that is what you desire, hunting for boar or fishing for bass. But we are at the heart of a metropolitan area that includes Richland County, Lexington County, and several other counties. But if we're going to thrive and survive and be strong, we've got to continue working together, and hopefully with your collective leadership, we can do some great things together. So thank you for having me. I think we're pretty good on time. I don't have any jokes, Major. If you want to slip me one, I'll be happy to regale the crowd. But happy to try and answer any questions you might have. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate that. It's always enlightening to hear positive things going on with the city of Columbia. In light of the 70 mayors coming from all over the place, anything we can do about cleaning up Gills Creek and the eyesore of the Title Max building and all that before these people come? Because that's a main venue for Columbia.
I couldn't agree more. One challenge, of course, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to pull it back, is that the Title Max is not in the city of Columbia. We've been working aggressively to have it annexed into the city of Columbia so that we can abate it. It's in one of those little donut holes that I think plague our overall regional growth. I'm a believer, I'm not trying to start any fights, but I'm a believer in closing up every donut hole and dip and dot in the city, and I'm also a believer in consolidating government. That's a whole other discussion that I don't want to start. That's in one of those pockets. The previous owner was, I understand, reticent to annex into the city. There's a new owner who I understand is much more amenable to that, and hopefully we'll have a plan to abate that sometime soon.
I just think cleaning that creek up would go a whole, do a lot of positive vibes.
And not just Gills Creek. There are a few other special places we're going to try and address.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for coming. We won't have time to straighten this up when the mayors get here this fall, but I wanted you to address Finley Park. I know the plan that was designed by that firm, $20-something million, has been discarded, by most people's thoughts, a long time ago. How do we put together a plan of $8, $10, $11 million to refurbish, renourish, and make that a central, wonderful, welcoming place in downtown Columbia?
Sure, I'll tell you, I'll say as much as I can, Mike, and I know we've had some passing conversations about Finley Park as well. Well, Finley Park is an amazing opportunity. I think when it was conceived as one way, it was engineered a different way, and it was built a different way. And also built in a place at the time where it presented some unique challenges as we worked to build a much more walkable and connected downtown and urban core. It's boxed off in an interesting way. You think about how many of you feel comfortable crossing Assembly Street by foot. Assembly Street is as busy as I-95 at some points during the day. If you're going west on Taylor Street heading towards Lexington County, I think it's probably fair to say you can clock folks doing 65 miles an hour. On the north side of the park, it's 3 stories up, and obviously you and Robin and others live on the south side, excuse me, the west side of the park. That is totally residential. Physically, it's boxed off from the rest of the city in a very interesting way. And there are a number of different things that we have to do to make Philly Park not just much more attractive, but also much more accessible. Some of the plans that I have discussed publicly, and we have some pretty interesting ideas aggressively underway that I think will be at least moving forward aggressively before September. So, Philly Park will be rebuilt by then, but you'll be seeing some great things before September. We'll speak before then, personally, as I will with all the people who live at Governor's Hill. The elements of the plan that you've seen, the $23 million plan, are still to be, I believe, deployed. That plan was too rich. It was presented to us, and I made some public comments about that. I do believe that there are still ways in which we can attract significant capital to the park in a way that represents a type of private sector capital investment that can then be leveraged to do public sector good. So that's the model that we're working off of right now. Without saying too much, but I think you'll see improvements there that will be significantly greater than even what the Stantec plan shared for Finley Park. We've had some improvements in connectivity with the Vista Greenway. If some of you have never had a chance to walk from the Blue Marlin to Finley Park, the repurposed, adaptive, reused railroad tunnel, I encourage you to do that. It now goes straight from there all the way to Elmwood Park. There are plans in place to take it from Elmwood Park all the way through North Columbia, Earlwood Park, up to back around through Bull Street and Smith's Branch, and it's an exciting plan. But like I would expect, you'll see something in probably 120 days that'll make you very happy. Make you very happy. All right. Yes, sir.
Mayor, an update on the Columbia Canal restoration and sort of time frame on that?
Yeah. I would tell you the canal restoration and the coal tar abatement south there is more than enough to say grace over. I was at the White House just 2 weeks ago, spending some time talking with the President's staff about how we deal prospectively with FEMA and FERC and the Army Corps of Engineers in trying to accelerate the improvement in each of those plans, each of those two individual projects. We're getting some good support from the administration in that space. It is very difficult. As many of you know, that while FEMA is the primary source of funding, we were also able to get some funding to deal with the 2015 floods under Congressman Clyburn's leadership and Senator Graham's leadership primarily. We were able to go up and get about $60 million for Columbia, Richland County, and Lexington County to deal with the effects of the flood. While FEMA is a primary funding agency, that because we had one of the oldest hydroelectric plants in the country at the bottom of the canal, that FERC actually has, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission actually has regulatory authority over the canal. And I will tell you, if you have several federal agencies in one room at one time, it's very difficult getting the movement that you want to get at times. It's moving along. It's moving along slower than we would like it to have. The upside is that it has allowed us to explore a number of different options. The contract for canal repair has been awarded. Now it's just an issue of releasing the funds from the federal government in a way that keeps FEMA and FERC happy. We're still excited to see that development there still moving forward. If you haven't had a chance to go to the canal side, some of you have been waiting a long time to see all the CCI property developed. It is there. It's a $59 million investment by the beach company that finally also gets our first canal front dining opportunities, retail development opportunities. It's fantastic looking development. I encourage you to go down there and check it out. But it's moving. It's moving a little bit slower than we wanted to, but we remained in constant contact with the administration, including a letter to the EPA Administrator Pruitt just this past week that we're set to follow up. White House emailed me on Thursday on some follow-up conversations in which we don't expect to get much infrastructure support from the federal government. The federal government's been pulling out of infrastructure funding year by year for the last 30 or 40 years. What we can, I believe, get from the federal government is just less red tape and the ability to move some projects along quicker. Hopefully that's the silver lining in the federal government cloud.
Thank you for being here. This is kind of coattailing on the gentleman's question about the title acts, but speaking of entryways into the city, I know that Assembly Street was one of those main ones, and I think for the most part it's really improved over the last few years, but there's still some eyesores, and I'm speaking about those awful Bradford pear trees all the way down Main Street. I, for one, would like to see a palmetto tree and a crepe myrtle all the way down. You know, those are symbols of our state pretty much. But I have battled with those in my own yard, and I'll say they're probably the most obtrusive root systems I've ever seen. So I can imagine what they're doing to the concrete and underneath that, the area that get down. Is there any kind of discussion about that, or is there an aesthetics committee in Columbia or anything?
There's a tree and appearance commission. Happy to put you on there. Libby can tell you. Libby can tell you how to figure that one out. But be happy to get you on there. And obviously our focus ought to be. We have I'm not sure how much progress we've made lately. I have to go check in with Sarah Holler, our city forester, but we've had a plan to deliver 10,000 new trees across the city. We're well on pace to do just that. The hope would be to, of course, deliver more indigenous trees that would allow us to continue to make investments in the type of green infrastructure you want to see that helps with all the other issues of flooding and the like. But yeah, you just volunteered for the tree and appearance commission. All right, John?
Mayor, I had lunch with somebody. I wish you'd have given me that stat last week, because I had lunch with an executive from Greenville, and she loves Greenville, and she's actually going to move one of their offices from down in Columbia and consolidate in Greenville. And she was bragging about Greenville. One of the things she talked about was parking, because she circled the block 4 times, meeting at the table before going to the wrong garage. But she says downtown Greenville, all the parking is free, and that really helps the restaurants and the businesses and all that stuff. Is there any plan for improving parking and making it less of a hassle and making it less expensive for people trying to visit our city centers where we want them to be?
Sure. I will tell you this, and this is the last question. Is this the last question? Okay. As we look at dealing with parking, it's right now the discussion is even so much more different than it was even just 5 years ago. This investment in technology that's going to lead to more autonomous vehicle, this phenomenon of ride sharing and Uber and Lyft and the way the world is changing. We've seen some pretty reliable studies, in one out of Denver recently, that shows that the number of people who will drive their own vehicles and the utilization of parking spaces, which the numbers are probably about $25,000 per space to build parking garages. You multiply that out to 400 spaces, a $10 million garage, and over 30 years defeats that debt, even issued at municipally tax-exempt bonds. Bernie can probably calculate much quicker than I can, but you're talking about not $10 million, but $20 million. If you're building a parking garage in 2018, and you have to defease that debt over 20 or 30 years, but in 20 or 30 years, parking garage usage has gone down significantly. How do you make good, sound public sector investments in a thoughtful way? You're starting to see people build parking garages without that 2-3% incline, but actually flat. So they might be able to adaptively reuse them for housing or office space later in life. You start to see much more vertical opportunity for vertical space on top of development on top of parking garages. The one thing that Greenville has done that we've actually received significant opposition even from some folks in this room over the years is Greenville has multiple tax increment financing districts, multiple, in their downtown, some overlapping that allow them to sequester prospective private sector tax development, the revenue from that and dumping it back into some of their developments downtown. There's something in the DNA of Columbia, maybe it's just the fact that we're a government town, we're so doggone political, that when we talk about TIFs, we often say, oh, look, in Greenville, we don't realize that Greenville's actually using the very same tools to deliver on that very same infrastructure. We have a healthy parking system. Actually, it's much healthier than it has been. We are making some investments in some technology that's helping along the way. Some of you may use the Passport Parking app. You love the Passport Parking app, and it's. I believe that we're going to start seeing some different attitudes changing as we make investments in smart city technology, allowing folks actually to pull up on the app and know exactly where an open parking space might be. But my job is, of course, making sure we have parking available to facilitate the development of business opportunities, but at the very same time, making sure that we can defease the outstanding debt we have on the bonds that we've issued. It's a heck of a balance. We'll stay focused on it. Meredith probably has the text messages because I kept her on that string, but I'd be happy to get the details on why we have more bars and restaurants in downtown Greenville between the Vista and Main Street. Thank you all for all you do.
Thank you, Mayor Benjamin. We appreciate your leadership, and we're going to go ahead. Stephen, next week.
Next week, our speaker is our very own Susan Elkins. She's the Chancellor of Palmetto College. She will be here, so please comment.
All right, and we'll go ahead and end with song.